Hello dear students, welcome to Bajira IAS Academy interview guidance program. So in today's lecture, we will be understanding about the left wing extremism, the problem of LWE, left wing extremism in India. Now, if you understand, left wing extremism is one of the most serious and most challenging internal security issue that India has been facing. There are few pockets in India where we see left-wing extremism at a very high levels. Now, in this context, we will understand what are the major reasons for left-wing extremism in India. Okay, now what are the factors which have been fueling left-wing extremism, and what are the ways through which we can address the issues which are created by the left-wing extremism, and what are the multi-dimensional strategies that we need to adopt in this regard in order to deal with the problem of left-wing extremism. Now, if you carefully understand this problem, this has serious developmental and governance implications, right? So these are the major reasons for the growth of left-wing extremism in India. The kind of a discontent which is being developed by the people who are living in the remote corners of our country are the major reasons for the growth of left-wing extremism. Okay, so the kind of misgovernance or misrule in those areas which further fueling the left-wing extremism problem. So therefore, left-wing extremism, tackling this challenge is one of the primary priority of the government. So therefore, in this context, what are the developmental, governance and security measures that we have to adopt in order to deal with left-wing extremism? Now, why this issue is very important? So this issue is very important particularly for the interview perspective, because it is not just an internal security challenge. Rather, it is about the development of the downtrodden and marginalized sections of the society, the scheduled tribes and other forest dwellers. Okay, now what are the factors which led to the rise of discontent among these people, and what are the ways we need to adopt so that the isolation of the people can be prevented or it can be abolished, and mainstreaming of the people who are living in those areas, and better infrastructure including education, healthcare. How can we ensure all these things? So we will be discussing in this article in a detailed manner. Now, firstly, understand, what is left-wing extremism, right? So, if you carefully understand left-wing extremism, it is a Maoist insurgency in different parts of our country. Okay, so left-wing extremism is known as Maoist insurgency in different parts of our country. Now, what are the different parts of our country which have been facing left-wing extremism? So, the areas which are marked here in red color and yellow color and green color are the areas which are impacted by the left-wing extremism. Now, if you look at the areas which are marked red, they are highly affected areas of left-wing extremism. This Dandakaranya region in Chhattisgarh, Odisha, and the tri-junction of Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, and even parts of Odisha, Chhattisgarh, and even Jharkhand and Bihar. So these are the areas which are highly affected by the left-wing extremism. Now, in UPSC mains also, every year there is a question on left-wing extremism. Now, whenever you write an answer, you must draw a map of the areas which are affected by the left-wing extremism. So that will help you get more marks for your answer. Now, after that, the areas which are marked here in yellow color, they are moderately affected areas, and the green color is marginally affected areas. Okay, so you just have to draw such diagram, or you just have to remember what are the areas which are majorly impacted by the left-wing extremism. Now, if you remember, the government has launched aspirational district program. Total 115 aspirational districts were selected, and most of the districts were left-wing extremism affected districts. So the aspirational district program overall ensures better infrastructure for the people who are living in these areas. So understand briefly, left-wing extremism is actually an ongoing Maoist insurgency. Okay, so the ideology of Mao, okay, so Chinese revolutionary, so they are primarily this movement is primarily based on the ideology of Mao. Because of this reason, it is called as Maoist insurgency. Okay, so what Mao has said that power flows through the barrel of the gun. This is what Mao has said. In a similar fashion, the left-wing extremism or Maoist movement in India has also inspired from the ideals of Mao or the ideology of Mao. Now, it is far left radical communist movement. Okay, so left wing extremism is a far left radical communist movement. So they believe in violence rather than choosing the democratic route, rather taking part in the elections. They believe in violence. So because of this reason, they are far left radical communist movement. And this has begun in the year 1967 in the village called Naxalbari. Okay, so this is the region where the left-wing extremism or Naxal movement has started. So because of this reason, this movement is called as Naxal movement, because it has started in the village called Naxalbari in the year 1967. So what is the overall aim of this Naxal movement or radical communist movement? So the overall aim of this movement is overthrowing the current capitalist systems. Okay, so usually the people who believe in this ideology have have the opinion or have the perspective that the government has been favoring the capitalist class and it has been exploiting the weaker sections and the marginalized sections. So therefore their aim is overthrowing the current capitalist systems. So they wanted to overthrow the existing system which is centered around capitalists, and capitalists used to exploit the either workers or weaker sections or marginalized sections of the society. So therefore they wanted to overthrow the government and they wanted to overthrow the current capitalist systems. So they also wanted to replace them with communist or socialist societies. Now, if you have the PSIR optional, political science and international relations optional, generally Karl Marx aimed to establish a communist society. Communist society is essentially a stateless society. Okay, so therefore the overall objective of this radical communist movement is also to replace the existing capitalist system or existing capitalist state with communist or socialist societies. Now the movement has since spread several other states. Now the movement is not just limited to few states or few regions. Rather, the movement has spread to different states, particularly in eastern India. Now, if you look at the concentration of this movement, there are states like Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Maharashtra. So these are the states which are highly impacted by the left-wing extremism movement. Okay, so still there are a presence of LWE, left-wing extremism in these regions which are marked over here on the map. So I hope you have briefly understood about the left-wing extremism, right? Now we need to understand major factors which led to the rise of left-wing extremism in India. Okay, so this is not just an internal security issue. Rather, this issue, the left-wing extremism, has relations, or it has links with the poor development, misgovernance, misrule. So therefore, we need to understand those factors. Firstly, we need to understand the tribal dissatisfaction with respect to the government policies, government legislations, right? So there's one legislation called Forest Conservation Act 1980. So this Forest Conservation Act 1980 has regulated the movement of tribals in those forest areas. Even they are not even allowed to collect the minor forest produce. So excessive regulations have been imposed on the tribals or people who are living in these tribal areas. So therefore it has led to the dissatisfaction, discontent among the people, especially the tribals. So therefore the Maoist ideology has attracted the young tribals to join the movement, right? So therefore it has been adding the fuel to the fire of existing issue. So therefore the Forest Conservation Act prohibits the tribes who rely on forest resources for their livelihood. Now when they are not able to earn their livelihood, when their livelihoods are being restricted or strictly regulated, then of course it creates a kind of dissatisfaction in the minds of tribal people, and that also one of the factor behind growth of left-wing extremism in India. Now after that we need to talk about the developmental projects which are implemented in these areas. For example, the hydroelectricity project, which is constructed in these tribal areas. So that led to the large scale displacement of the people who are living in those tribal areas. Okay, so they are displaced without any provision for resettlement, rehabilitation, or any compensation which is being provided for them. So they are also being stripped of their forest rights. So these developmental projects, mining operations, and other factors, so that has led to the displacement without any safeguards which are being actually should be provided to these tribals. So that is also another factor which led to the rise of left-wing extremism, because they have this sense of injustice, so injustice being done to them, so they are being displaced, and proper compensation, rehabilitation, resettlement has not been done. So this dissatisfaction has led to these tribal people attracted towards left-wing extremism. Now after that, the vulnerable individuals lack sustainable means of support. Okay, so there are no education facilities, no healthcare facilities, no connectivity, so they are further isolated. So they are not allowed to collect even minor forest produce. Even if they collect minor forest produce, so they are being exploited by the middlemen. So in all those cases, the tribal people lack sustainable means of support from the civil society, from the government, and from the politicians. So therefore in this context they are becoming easy targets, and Naxalite movement has been targeting those sections of the society, and it has been getting a constant constant flow of manpower from these dissatisfied tribals. So this is another factor. And the fourth factor is Maoist exploiting the situation. So this is what I have already told you, that Maoists have been exploiting the existing situation. So tribals are being dissatisfied because of the various reasons. One is Forest Conservation Act of 1980, developmental projects, mining operations, and there's lack of sustainable means of support for the tribal people. Now these all conditions are being exploited by the Maoist groups. Okay, so in this context they are being providing weapons, ammunition, financial assistance to these dissatisfied individuals, and they are joining the LWE movement. So that is further intensifying the existing situation. Okay, so making it more serious that we cannot be able to deal with it. Now after that, if you talk about the country's socio-economic system, so it has a lot of gaps. Okay, so it has a lot of gaps. So this essentially means that the government is not looking at the problem of left-wing extremism as a governance lapse, or it lacks good governance. Because of this, there's a problem of left-wing extremism. Rather, the government has been looking at the problem of left-wing extremism through the prism of security. So if there are a very less number of Naxal attacks in a particular year, then the government would believe that there's no LWE, so there's no Maoist movement in earlier highly affected regions. So this is not the right approach, Rather, we need to target different sections, the marginalized people in those areas, and we need to take both security and developmental measures hand in hand, and that is the best way to deal with the left wing extremism, the dissatisfaction which has been developed in the minds of the people. Okay, so after that, the other factor that we need to discuss is insufficient technical intelligence with the government. So when we do not have the intelligence to deal with the the Naxalite movement, then that will result in ineffective strategies against Naxalism. Okay, so this very often makes the security forces often fight with the Naxalites, and there will be casualties on the security forces side. And apart from that, we need to talk about the challenges, such as this lack of infrastructure. Okay, so there's no connectivity, no hospitals, no educational facilities. Even if you look at the maternal mortality rates, infant mortality rates, it is very high in those tribal belts. So when you don't have the hospitals or medical infrastructure or a doctor, then of course the mortality rate among pregnant women and even the newborn child is very high. Now there's lack of communication infrastructure as well. So all these factors further impede any action against the Naxalites or the left-wing extremism. So therefore we need to focus on strengthening the developmental infrastructure in those regions. After that, high-handedness of the police forces, even human rights violations in those tribal belts, and misgovernance, misbehavior with the tribal people. So following the police control over the region, the administration often fails to deliver essential services. So we very often hear that the administration is not able to deliver all the services for the local people, so leaving them without the necessary support. So because of this reason, they lack the necessary support from the government, and they have no other means except to join the Naxalites. And there's even the confusion regarding how to approach Naxalism. For example, there's a problem of diffusion of responsibility between the center and state governments. The center believes that it is the responsibility of the state governments, and state governments believe that it is the greater responsibility of the center. So therefore, overall, there's a diffusion of responsibility between the different federal units. So this is also a security threat. Okay, so apart from that, lack of proactive initiatives on the part of both center and state governments is also another issue which has been led to the left-wing extremism. Now, when you are answering this question, you just have to mention the main points. For example, inadequate infrastructure, lack of proper communication networks, and diffusion of responsibilities, and apart from that, misgovernance in those areas, lack of good governance, lack of education, healthcare facilities for the people, lack of support systems, and arbitrary displacement of the people from their original habitats. And Forest Right Act has not recognized the rights of the people who are living in those forest areas. So you just mention those things. Okay, so you will cover as many points as possible, and that will make your answer more impactful as well. So in this context, we will understand the government's approach against Naxalism. So what are the measures that the government has adopted to deal with the left-wing extremism? So firstly, the government has started or launched Operation Green Hunt. Okay, so Operation Green Hunt was launched in the year 2010. So as part of the Operation Green Hunt, the government will deploy security forces in Naxal affected areas, but this is a general initiative. So deployment of security forces into the Naxal hit areas. So apart from that, the aspirational districts program has also been launched. So what is the overall objective of the aspirational districts program? Now, these districts which are affected by the left wing extremism have been facing a lot of issues, a lot of developmental issues. The connectivity, education, healthcare, nutrition, and lack of livelihood options, and poor agricultural incomes, lack of support for the handicraft manufacturing, and ecotourism. So all these factors will be taken care by the aspirational districts program. So therefore, overall, a comprehensive and holistic development in LW affected areas is the objective of the aspirational districts program. Now, after that, this also includes promotion of development, safeguarding the rights and entitlements of local communities. So there was a Forest Rights Act. So according to the Forest Rights Act, so every individual who is original inhabitant of those forest areas will be entitled to certain rights and certain land, and his rights will not be stripped off, and he is not allowed to sell his or her land to other outsiders. So apart from that, this will also focus on improving the governance, overall good governance, and managing the public perception about the government. So this is very important. When we engage with the people, especially at the grassroots level, when we provide development to the people at the grassroots level, that could change the perception of the people towards the government. So that is also a very important, and aspirational districts program will achieve this. So the Ministry of Home Affairs has initiated Operation Samadhan. Okay, so Operation Samadhan is primarily aimed to tackle the Naxal problem. So it is primarily, a security related initiative rather than a developmental initiative. It is a security related initiative. Now here, Operation Samadhan actually stands for smart leadership. Okay, so there will be a smart leadership when it comes to the security forces which have been undertaking the combat operations against the Naxalites. And A means there will be an aggressive and proactive strategy which is being followed by these security forces, and M means motivation and training. A is actionable intelligence, so intelligence gathering, intelligence sharing, and interoperability between different security forces at the center and state levels to effectively tackle the problem of left-wing extremism. Now after that, D means dashboard based key performance indicators and key result areas, harnessing technology, action plan for each theater, and no access to finance. So what does it mean when we say no access to finance? So the major source of finance or funding for the left-wing extremism or Naxalite groups is through counterfeit currency, drug trade, and even extortion of money. So Operation Samadhan will also focus on arresting the funding for these Maoist groups. So thereby the security forces can effectively tackle the problem of LWE. In fact, the Ministry of Home Affairs, it is a nodal ministry at the central level to deal with the left-wing extremism. So this has recommended employing technological interventions such as weapon trackers, biometrics for smart guns, right? So it is essentially using technology to curtail the problem of left-wing extremism. So therefore, MHA has suggested to use weapon trackers, biometric for smart guns. So it also suggests assigning a unique identification numbers to gelatin sticks and explosives. So what is the source of arms and ammunition for the LWE? So essentially, the non-state actors have been providing arms and ammunition to the Maoists, but apart from that, when they fight with the security forces, so they even take away the arms and ammunition of the security forces. Now what Ministry of Home Affairs has been suggesting is that there should be a smart gun. There should be sensors within guns. So even if these left-wing, the Maoist forces have taken away the guns of the security forces, they can be easily tracked. So in order to enhance coordination and intelligence sharing, joint task forces are established for operations along the interstate boundaries. Okay, so there will be a joint task force between the security forces of different states, police of different states, and even the security forces. So that will help in coordination and intelligence sharing. Okay, so in this manner, the government has taken various such measures. One of them is being aspirational districts program. So however, the essence to deal with the problem of insurgency or left-wing extremism is both development and security. So even if you take development and neglect security, or vice versa, this will not yield any substantial or significant results. So you have to focus on both development and security. And this is we need to talk about one important case study here, Andhra Pradesh. So Andhra Pradesh is one of the, once upon a time, it was one of the most affected, left-wing extremism affected regions. So however, it has taken both security and developmental measures. Now, the presence of Maoist movement in the state is very limited. So therefore, LWE, we need to follow the model of Andhra Pradesh. In fact, the Maoists who surrender, they have a separate rehabilitation policy as well. So they to encourage the surrender of Maoist cadres. So reduce or weaken the influence of Maoists. So therefore, the occurrence of violent incidents related to left-wing extremism in India has decreased in recent years. So there's no doubt that the incidents of LWE have decreased in India in recent times. So Indian Home Ministry removed several districts from the list of those affected by the left-wing extremism. So this is the positive sign that several districts were being removed from the LWE affected districts. So this is a positive sign. So however, there are still concern with respect to LWE or Maoist movement. So therefore, a synthesis of both security and developmental measures have to be taken, and focus should be on good governance in those areas, respecting human rights and integrating people, providing connectivity, infrastructure, better livelihood opportunities, women empowerment, their rights and entitlements should be given to them and respected to them, respect to their those rights. And even if they are being displaced, a proper rehabilitation resettlement has to be made. And so all these measures have to be taken together in order to prevent or minimize the problem of left-wing extremism. So that's all in this lecture. Thank you. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel.